Hi, I'm Chris Nedza, Lead Entrepreneur in Residence of the Advanced Technology Development Center at Georgia Tech. We're the state of Georgia's technology incubator. Welcome to Season 1 of the ATDC podcast, Executive Bytes. We focus on the startup founders in our portfolio, what sparked them to launch their companies, the market problem they've solved, and even how they overcame the thoughts of quitting when times get rough. Enjoy. Welcome to the show. We've got some super interesting stuff today. Anthony Maley of Vouch.io has got an amazing technology that is super. I mean, in the world of cybersecurity and hacking, especially this is pretty timely too. Because didn't we just have an announcement of some Chinese hacking, and there's a bunch of stuff out on how to make sure that your phone messages and text messages are encrypted. So we're going to get into that, and then my partner in crime is another Chris Spears, who's the CEO of Orderly Meds. And I love doing this because it's not, you guys are super smart, CEOs are smart, and we're going to have some good live wire discussion. But Anthony, let's dive right in. Give our audience the 30-second, what the heck is Vouch.io? I know, but let's make sure they know.
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for having me. Delighted to be here. Nice to meet you, Chris. So Vouch is a new way to think about identification, right? So we establish an identity that has no synthetic view of you, so no passwords, tokens, codes, anything like that, nothing that can be used to impersonate you. But then what we do is we give that identity superpowers. So identification becomes the thing. So we actually allow companies to issue a license based on your identity, almost like a driver's license, deep into the technology on your phone. Right? So we can link your human biometric, your identification, and link that to a company or a product or a service.
But you call that immutable identity, which means, as far as I can get it, is I have a key that can open up my Tesla or my Mercedes or whatever other luxury EV I have, and that key knows it's me, and the car knows that I am trying to get in. Theoretically, that's how it's supposed to work. That's what your technology actually does.
Yeah, it's kind of that. The difference, and it's a subtle difference, but really important.
This is why I don't get it. It's subtle,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, there is no key. You become the key. We make your human identity the key. And the car recognizes that you are you and that you're the owner. And the car does that itself.
Do I need how does it know? Do I have a key? Do I have, it's on my phone and it feels me coming from the biometrics of my thumb? How does it know me?
Yeah, so the car has our technology inside it, and it can use that technology to verify not just who you are, so your biometric, right, linked to your phone, but also that license I was talking about, the identification. It knows that you're the owner, or you're allowed to drive the car, or allowed to just open the trunk of the car, or you've rented it for one day. The car itself does that, and we do that all locally, peer-to-peer, between you and the car.
And that's for a car, but it would work for my smart home. It would work for, I don't know.
It's hardware and software, I assume, right? So it's a lock at my house, it's an app on my phone, it's a browser visit on my computer.
Yeah, it's hardware or software, essentially. Mm-hmm. It's a software algorithm that we've invented that does that identification locally, so we can do that in software. So for example, the simplest use case is we can just replace passwords for a company. Mm-hmm. We don't need to give you a synthetic view of yourself anymore, like a password, username, token, two-factor, all of that can dissolve away. Mm-hmm. Right? So just at a software level, it's a very powerful solution.
Can I get that as a consumer? Like, I want that right now. Can I get that? So I can get rid of my LastPass or the other password key for things or whatever?
We need to work with the companies that are offering your services, right?
Okay.
So we're really a B2B, 2C play, right? Okay. So we work with the companies that build the products and the services that you consume.
It's a really hard sell, right? Because you've got to kind of build up, you're a multi-sided marketplace. You've got to have enough consumers driving the desire for that, or the employers, but then you've got to convince, a large business to also accept that as a modality for login, right? It's kind of replacing single sign-on from Google or Microsoft and saying, use Vouch instead.
Would it replace that?
It can replace
or augment
that.
It.
For sure. We like to not go into that battle of trying to replace a big tech company, we like to position ourselves as the superpowers we can give your existing identities, right? So we're not competing head to head. In reality, we can replace them, but we're not trying to make that sell. That is way too hard to sell to make.
Where is the, who's the customer? Because I'm going to assume that somebody that is listening right now, they're going like, I want that for my organization. Who's the customer and what's the size company that you're looking for?
Yeah,
that's a good fit.
So we're really focused on Fortune 500 companies. That's our market. We really go after two levels. We go after, like, human resources is a really strong target for us. So we can replace how you identify a candidate the first time you come into contact with someone, right? We go back to the kind of Chinese, North Korean hacking that's going on just now, right? A lot of that is companies are really worried that these bad actors are trying to impersonate real candidates to get inside.
So they're doing a lot of phishing, right?
Yeah,
I get trained all the time on phishing and spam emails and stuff like that. Would your technology, if it were in place, would it completely block that?
Yeah, essentially, and that's why it's became a real target for us. It's probably our biggest growth area is human resources candidates, all the way through to employment. And then once you become an employee, that's where Vouch really comes into its own. We can use it for removing single sign-on, access, sharing, approving transactions. But it all starts back with giving you an identity in first contact that we can verify all the way through the chain.
Okay, so the battle people are doing right now is sort of like that old cartoon, Spy versus Spy. It's like, we're going to train you and put you through all these training programs, because I go through them all the time. How to identify phishing, how to identify, spam mail, all that kind of stuff. That's Spy versus Spy. What you're saying is, if you had our technology, if the HR or the IT group had our technology, you wouldn't even need to train them because it would not be a threat anymore.
Yeah, exactly that.
I'm signing up.
Yeah. I mean, it's got to be a pretty complex technical solution, right? Like, under the covers, how you're fingerprinting an initial identity for someone. I mean, it has to have a lot of factors that are getting dragged into that. It's got to be a hard thing to describe to an HR professional.
Yes and no.
So you kind of elevate it past the technology and just make it a business problem conversation.
It's exactly that. It's 100% a business problem. HR, I think the stats right now globally is there's like $1 trillion spent in recruitment every year in the US, right? 47% of all candidates are fake, right?
No.
$4,700 is the average cost per position for a corporate Fortune 500 company to fill each position. And a lot of that is down to, how do we know this person is genuine? How do we check their background? Background checks, drug screening, all of those things are really what's driving that. But it's not what keeps them awake at night. What keeps them awake at night is the big risks. Can a bad actor cause me financial, reputational, contractual, operational risk? That's what the boards care about. And our tech is targeted purely at that.
Right.
We can reduce, mitigate, eradicate a lot of those risks, and then reduce the costs and increase the experience for candidates. So we're really a direct hit in that space right now, and we're really pushing hard on it.
Interesting.
Is there a channel play there? Like, are you working with the Indeeds and the Monsters of the world, and LinkedIn is kind of like the source for all of those initial recruiting?
Yeah, that's our plan.
Or even the BPOs?
Yeah, we're speaking with a whole bunch of those guys just now. We're trying to establish it as our product first, and then we've got a pipeline of that coming behind. We've been working the last year. We're also working with Apple right now directly to get our tech inside the phone. So first-class native proofs that we create can go inside the wallet for Apple, and that'll make it easier as well.
I would love that, because I was literally reading an article this morning about how do you make sure that your text messages and phone calls are encrypted. Use WhatsApp.
Right.
I'm like, well, that doesn't seem like how do you use your iPhone. Don't use your iPhone.
The reality is companies like Apple spend an absolute ton of money protecting you, right? They've got some great tech, but it doesn't translate into the enterprise. Right? It's very B2C focused. Apple can protect your text messages right now, but it's really difficult for a consumer to engage in that. We add our tech to what Apple and Google are doing, Samsung are doing, and it just adds superpowers, takes away a lot of those risks, allows companies to be the ones who issue those identities, right? That identification, that license, and then have it verified all the way through, reduce those risks that I spoke about.
Yeah.
And we're doing that.
Anthony, super nerdy. Is this like zero knowledge proofs under the covers that are doing that?
We can use that.
Okay.
So it's kind of ironic. We started with all of that tech. People weren't so interested in it, but it's came full circle in the last 3 years.
Zero knowledge proofs?
Yeah. It's,
okay, so
I'll let Anthony describe it. I'm not smart enough to describe what that
please
means.
do, because you just left the audience to,
Yeah, it's a kind of blockchain-y term, right? So essentially, it's a method of being able to prove data without giving you the data, right? So I can verify that you are the owner of a car, you're an employee of this company, or you're 18 years old or over, or you're a citizen of the US, without me giving you that data, so I don't expose the risk, right? But the other sides can verify all of that without sharing it.
It's a level of math we'll never understand.
Yeah.
But it's interesting.
It's clever stuff.
Yeah.
I don't need to. I know it works. It can't be hacked.
Right.
Yeah.
Can't be cracked. Can't be learned.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
See, I got it.
Problem solved.
Why did you start this company? I mean, was there a pain that you found, or that you were in, or did you get hacked, or why did you start it?
Really, my whole career has been designing and building products for some of the world's largest companies, both in Europe and here in the US. Always the same problem existed. How do I know it's actually the person that should be doing that thing is the person that I think it is? Couldn't answer it. All of the technology like PKI, the certificates that you see, the little green padlock on your browser, right? That's what all the companies use to protect IoT, for example. But if I have that master key, I can be that green padlock. There's still no way for me to verify that it's Chris, right? There's no way for me to do that. And eventually I thought I just need to go and solve this problem. We had the idea, started the company, and here we are.
When you win enough Fortune 500, and you can solve Chris's problem, right? Which is the fact that he has 1,000 passwords he doesn't want to keep track of anymore. And my parents have that sheet of paper in the nightstand that has all the passwords written on it.
Listen,
we've got to replace those things quickly, right?
To your parents anymore. Listen, you call me sir, I'm coming over the table.
Yeah, but passwords really is 1961 technology.
Yeah.
That's when we started using them, right? We still use them today. In fact, I read today, Wall Street Journal, right? Cybersecurity section out there. First article on the front page is there's new federal government rules coming about passwords.
Yeah.
Right. This is 2024. We need to move on from passwords.
Yeah, I mean, great point. I mean, you're right. I mean, I actually, I have a password manager, so I'm past that. But that doesn't protect me from spam emails and other stuff. It doesn't protect me fully. It only protects me from that one app. Maybe, because now I have to have dual auth and I got 20 other things I have to do.
You think about like the larger costs, right? I would pull my phone up right now, and the last 15 text messages I got are probably security pins, right? The six numbers that I need to type in to log into my bank account. Everything now requires two-factor authentication, right? What is the total tonnage of SMS messages being sent, and what's the value of just not doing that to the cellular networks? Right, as you think about like replacing some of the cost infrastructure there. And they're annoying, right?
I know. I've got literally, I don't know how many dual auth, VIP and
authenticator.
What's ironic is none of that proves who you are. Not one of it. The password, the MFA, the codes, none of it proves who you are. And that's really what we're trying to solve. Is we want to prove who you are, not what you have access to.
Well, it's not what you're trying to solve. You actually have solved this problem.
Yeah, but when I say solve, I want everyone to have access to this tech, right? This isn't just hey, we want to get rich building this thing. We really want to see this being adopted globally, right?
I would sign up tomorrow for it, because I'm so sick of having 20 different authentication things. And I get it. Pretty interesting, isn't it?
Yeah. When do you think we're all going to end up with like an RFID chip in our finger? Just kind of run that over our computer to log. Not a thing, huh?
Never. I'll tell you why. Because I could just take that chip, put it in my finger, and I become you, right?
Fair
so
enough.
we need to recognize you as the human you are, not as the thing that you have. Right? That's the goal.
That's interesting.
Yeah, we have a really fascinating use case that came to us this week, working with a company headquartered here in Atlanta. They're really paranoid about people coming into board meetings that are remote. And AI could be the thing that's actually representing a person on the board, and there's no way to verify that it's actually the person, the real human you think they are, right? Either people saying they've been invited, they're out there on someone's behalf, or just flat out deep fakes.
Right.
So we're trialing our tech to solve that specifically for board meetings.
Interesting. And then you've got all these AI note takers that are,
joining meetings.
Joining the meetings. I mean, that scares the living daylights.
Yeah, if you see one of them, just hit X and remove them, right? That's not a good thing. Yeah,
they're great. But
You're the weak.
I could be the problem. Yeah, it's interesting. Where do you go from here?
I think we keep leaning into the partnerships that we've got with Apple. We've also started the partnership with Microsoft as well to broaden the use of our tech. We're going a bit more global. Tamil Nadu region in India, we're talking with those guys about certifying their students' identities. Right? So we know who's at the colleges, we know who's taking the proctored exams, we know who they are when they go to employers, and building a whole region of trust based on our tech. So that's the big ambitions. That's the things we're working on right now. But really leaning into this kind of human resources based angle to get our tech into the largest companies and then growing it from there. That's our goal.
I just love it. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you as a guest again, and I'm going to invite some cybersecurity people from these larger organizations, and I'd love to do a little round table on it. Would you be game for that?
Yeah, sure. Love to.
One more, just like when I think about the idea of employees moving between big corporations, do I get identified once and then that same identity follows me? So you're building kind of a global identity database, not so much a localized, this company knows who I am.
If you think how LinkedIn works, right? I don't know what the percentage of fake data is on LinkedIn, but it must be pretty high, right?
Yeah.
But imagine I could literally endorse you as who you are, that you worked here, that your role was this, and you can verify that as you move company to company, your experience, your background checks, the drug screening you've done, all of that could be just living in your phone and your license, and no data needs to be shared to prove that, right?
Right. Well, I would presume that it also starts to expose you to very interesting scenarios with CRM systems, and like I can go on LinkedIn right now and say I have 3 PhDs from Harvard, and there's nothing that validates that, right? Like this kind of technology, if it's ubiquitous everywhere, right? Harvard is certified that I did that, and then I'm attaching my license to LinkedIn, and it's the only reason I can put Harvard on my profile. Exactly. I didn't go to Harvard. That's my.
I was laughing, listen, you're smart enough.
But then the other thing that becomes interesting, if like a global unified, like you start to replace the data problem inside of global CRM systems, right? Salesforce doesn't have 19 copies of Chris across 3 organizations. It has Chris's one vouch ID, and then when he updates that vouch ID, it updates everybody's record inside of a CRM system.
Is that what you call it, a vouch ID? Have you?
I made that up.
I'm just no, but we haven't used that term, so we'll give Chris commissions.
Chris, I like branding.
Give Chris and then let's work on the last name. That's awesome.
But yeah, it's an amazing point actually, because all of this data is centered around synthetic views of you. Even your social security number is a synthetic view of you, right? But imagine if your social security benefits were just linked to your human identity.
Yeah. No, you start to solve all type of fraud problems, right? We just came out of election, you get election fraud, voting fraud, like everything becomes easier as we get smarter with our identity management.
Okay, who's the competitor out there that scares the daylights out of you?
Apple's both our biggest competitor and our biggest enabler. Apple are moving the technology so fast to protect people. They really are doing a lot of great work. But they're not really a competitor. They could move into areas that we do, but they're just not capable of being in every single industry, right? They're really giving companies like ours a platform to build technology that businesses can leverage, products can leverage, where Apple just can't reach to. But if they wanted to, they could turn all their guns to what we're doing, right? But thankfully, we have a great relationship with those guys.
There's not any one player that's already doing this, already solved that problem. So that, man, I am super pumped. I told you guys this would be a really interesting show, and it has not disappointed me. So, Anthony, Chris, thank you for jumping in on this, and can't wait to see where it goes. And I honestly, I'm going to ask you for the 12th time. Let me get a hold of it. Maybe we'll publish this. And People can get a hold of you through vouch.io.
Yeah, vouch.io. Yeah.
Okay. So thank you very much, man. Appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Chris,
Awesome.
always. Thank you for joining us on this episode of the ATDC podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like, and share or connect wherever you get your podcasts. Please be sure to follow us on social media. Our handle is @ATDC on X, LinkedIn, and Instagram.